After all those serious near hub games, it's time to let down our hairs a bit and go for more fun with my Cerebral imaging mandatory upgrades deck. Unfortunately, I'm playing up against a very serious ID in Andromeda. That's pretty nasty. Alright, here there's some bug with the interface, don't mind that. So I'll just go with this hand. It contains 2 of my 3 combo components, Shipment from Mirrormorph, mandatory upgrades, and just missing the Mushin. I find only 2 ice in my opening hand after drawing with blue level clearance, so I install the better ice, which is IQ. You want to get your IQ installed before you gain too many cards in hand. And of course it goes on HQ because it's Andromeda. Thereafter the Heimdall goes on R&D. That single Heimdall should be able to stop ND from causing too much damage to R&D. Unless she's willing to click through it every single turn. Now this is security testing ND. Very, very serious with data suckers to boot. This is not going to be a pleasant game at all. I run a lot of high strength ice and they'll be chewed open by a data sucker. He runs on his last click a fatal error against HP and I appropriately punish him for that, 1 brain damage. Not too much, but it's still worth punishing him to stem the virus tokens from going out of hand and more importantly to stop him from accessing any more cards. Definitely don't want to be bleeding agendas if I can help it. And very well, I had a celebrity gift in my hand all the time, so I didn't have to worry about my credit pool going all the way down because I'll compensate for it as I do here, 12 credits up. Now he continues security testing. By now I should be trying to stop him. However, I'm not planning to install that Viktor on the archives for one simple reason. I need the Viktor to protect the remote should I find a Mushin in my deck. The moment the Mushin is found, it's go time. I need to get the mandatory upgrades going. And if I do not have any ice to use for Shipment from Mirrormorph, that's a huge problem. So I definitely need to stock up ice. I continue drawing cards, still no ice, but it's the second copy of Celebrity Gift and I'll use it. So now I'm pretty good in terms of money, making up for my loss from raising IQ with 6 cards in hand. It's a very strong code gate now, and he shouldn't be able to break through it easily. Right as I say that, he installs Passport. And account siphons me. Oh dear, oh dear. Now, I have 7 cards in hand, which means that it will cost him 7 credits, I believe. It will usually cost him 7 credits to get through IQ, which is insanely taxing. Not worth it if we are just performing account siphon. But because he's running data suckers, 7 credits suddenly become 3 credits. And it's all worth it, not just for the credit gain, but more importantly to keep me poor. Poor Cerebral imaging is as good as dead. So at this point, I was forced to double ice HQ in case he continues siphon blocking me. And gain credit so that I don't have to discard anything. Looking at him, he harbored tags from the last turn and he cleared them this turn. It might have been a better idea to trash his security testing, but if I did so, I would certainly have to jet some cards out of my hand and forego the installation over HQ, which could put me in a worse situation. It's quite hard to tell whether I was making the right choice or not. Alright, ignore the run on R&D. He omitted the fact that Heimdall is a barrier and he didn't have his breach out, which I'm presuming he's using. His breaker suite should be the central breaker suite of the criminals. So, knowing that, my strategy suddenly changes. In part because I cannot find my Mushin for nuts. And yeah, I can't find any ice to accompany my Viktor 2, which has been lying in my hand all this while, all the time. That's a huge problem. I'm not scoring agenda, so my hand is entirely agenda flooded, which is definitely not a good prospect. I'm definitely looking to start pumping out agendas, otherwise you just knock the doors of HQ, and one legwork later, he's going to seal the deal. Okay. He continues security testing, and now he's at a point where I cannot stop him anymore. He has 7 virus tokens on the suckers. He has 15 credits and 6 more on KT. He's unstoppable at this point. So I finally draw into my eyes, and I'll take a turn to stabilize, stem the bleeding from archives, as I ponder over my next move. I think at this point, scoring a mandatory upgrades is not a good idea. Even if I get a chance to, it's not going to make my game any easier. I should make use of his weakness, which is his inability to penetrate remotes. I will take advantage of that and begin scoring agendas from remotes as they are. So what I do, I install both Victors to protect against inside job and the possibility of him clicking through the Victors, and then I install the ABT. It's time to get those agendas going. Ideally, I wouldn't have to rest both Victors, and so I heave a huge sigh of relief when I saw that he was hitting R&D instead on his second click. This means that he cannot click through my Victors anymore. So I shouldn't need to rest too many Victors. Resting both Victors would be a huge loss for me because that would bring me down to 5 credits. If I score the ABT, I'll be down to 2 credits, which means I have to jet out all my cards in my hand. It's always a worry with Cerebral imaging, and that's a very painful worry. He then hits HQ, and I was very, very tempted at this point to res the Ichi because I could trash one program from him, and that would really slow him down. That is the only thing at this point that will slow him down, his lack of breakers. Not installing the alias is a huge mistake for him, as well as running on his third click. He shouldn't be doing that, but I let him pass this time because the ABT right now is far too important, and as a result, I lost another agenda. So now he's on 4 agenda points. For his last click, since he's not threatening my remote, I'll just rest the Eli to tax him. Yeah, what tax? He's so rich and he has so many sucker tokens that it doesn't matter anymore. I'll just res it anyway because I installed it there. Might as well make the fullest use of it. It only costs 3 to res anyway. So, ABT fires off and I initiate it. There are no agendas, that's the good news. The bad news is that there's only one ice and it's an Ichi. At least that will stop him from running R&D for now. But this could end up being a bad thing for me because it actually encourages him to find his alias. Whereas he possibly could go without installing the alias for a while and as a result slam into the Ichi on my HQ. So now he forge activates my Ichi on the HQ and I trash it. Why? Because I'm low on credits after having just got the ABT and I do have another Ichi in hand. So I'm perfectly fine with letting him in right now because next turn I'll just install the Ichi anyway. So I trade 1 click and 1 credit for his 1 click and 1 credit. Pretty fair. So luckily he doesn't hit an agenda this time round and I cred up and get the Ichi going. My central servers are defended by Swiss cheese at this point. It's not even funny. Now he has 3 data suckers out and both central breakers. His runs are dirt cheap. He runs on his last click into the remote and oh man, that is such a huge mistake. I really wish I had Ichi on the remote to punish him. I wouldn't mind letting him steal my pet project. If I had an Ichi there, both the breach and passport were going down in flames and that would be super sweet. But unfortunately, I didn't think better to put an Ichi in the remote. So, whoops. Well, that was a very... that was something that I could have done to change the game. But granted, what he's doing right now is very suboptimal. A good player should never be running remotes if they have no way to break Mirrormorph ice on the remotes. Running on last click, that's a huge mistake. Alright, so I trigger Director Haas's pet project and seeing that he is so trigger happy with running remotes, I decided to put the Ichi that I trash with Forge activation orders into the remote. So if he runs there, he's going to be in the world of hurt. But I don't have enough credits to rest the Ichi. If he runs that server, he's going to steal the Chronos project. But, well, he decided not to run. Thank goodness for me. So, in the meantime, I think of the best way to make more money. At this point, I want to trigger my restructure. That's the main priority. So what I do is to recurse the hedge fund. Yep. So that brings me to 9 credits. If he runs that remote, I'll happily show him the Ichi, and boom goes the breach and passport. Alright, he gets the triple R&D interface out and performs an inside job on R&D. Ouch. Alright. Looks like he cannot find his alias, but he's getting through anyway because he has inside job. And breaks through the Heimdall easily. Heimdall 1 is pretty much the worst ice that I can ask for when facing against a breach. And Andromeda playing breach. Yes, breach eats Heimdall 1s for breakfast. It's not even funny. Breach seemed to be totally tailor-made to counter Heimdall 1. Pump 4 strength for 2 credits, break 3 subroutines for 2 credits. That is ridiculous. Yeah, it's sick. And now that I know that he can get through R&D so easily, I need to protect R&D even more, because that's going to be the place where I lose the game. Alright, he finally finds his alias. So now he's completely unstoppable, as long as he has enough credits. I had to rest the Ichi on HQ to tax him. It's now or never anyway. He can still get through even though he has only 5 credits to his name because of all the sucker tokens. So, oh well. At least I'm slowing him down massively. After this, he actually doesn't have an easy way to make money anymore. Archives is sealed off with Eli, so if he runs there, security testing there is inequitable. He's only gaining 1 credit because he has to spend 2 credits to break the Eli, unless he's clicking through it, which is not worth it either. His only economy source right now would be Katie Jones. So yeah, he's definitely fizzling out right now because I managed to get good eyes on all my servers. The bad news is he's on match point, and he's about to access the shipment from Mirrormorph. He must be very sick of seeing that card by now. Thankfully, it wasn't legwork that would have sealed the game. So at this point, I see that I only have 3 agenda points. I know that the game is all but over for me, because I know that he just needs to get more money on his KT and make 1 good run on R&D to win the game. So I just went all in. I threw all my eggs into mandatory upgrades. Mushin no Shin did out. Not even a single ice protecting it, because I resigned at this point. I knew there was no way I could win. The amount of time it would take for me to advance 2 agendas, that's the number of agendas I need at the very minimum to win the game. 2 agendas advancing there in remotes. It takes way too long. By then he would have had a fully stocked KT Jones and would be running my servers like free. Alright, he does security test the open remote that I created with Mushin no Shin. Yeah, he security tests there, but he doesn't run there. He took his click back. Instead, he chooses to check archives because he knows that I did ABT before and there were no Jacksons. Of course, there are no agendas in there, so I have not much to worry about. But the only question on my head now is he going to run my man up? If he doesn't, I might actually have a shot of winning this game. But yeah, at this point, I realized that by playing consistently, I'm not going to win the game. If I play slow and steady by advancing stuff through remotes, I knew I had no shot, because he was 1 or 2 central runs away from winning the game. So I had to go all in with this mind game. It paid off. He didn't run the man up. I was low on credit, so I was deliberating whether to score the man up now. But since it offers 1 extra click the moment it's scored, no question, score it. And I gained the extra click to get 1 credit. And then it suddenly dawned upon me, I'm about to win this game. If he doesn't steal 1 more agenda I win the game because I have a Vitruvius in my hand. I can fast advance it now that man up has been scored. Whoa. What a turnaround. Alright, but I'm not in the clear yet. He can easily run my centrals, and more importantly, that remote is still vulnerable. I stupidly put a Chronos project in that remote at the end, but he didn't run it because he didn't have the central break. He only had central breakers. So I fast advance a Vitruvius from hand to end the game early. This is not a very indicative performance of my CI deck. Admittedly, my opponent made some glaring mistakes this game. Running remotes when he didn't have the capability to break Mirroroids, and not capitalizing on those moments where I was low on credits. But yes, you see the problem here when the Mushin no Shin doesn't come early enough. The mandatory upgrades plan just fizzles in your face. Granted, Criminal is a harder matchup, especially a Criminal that is tailored to beat this deck to a pulp. Those central breakers combined with data suckers. No one would ever think to use data suckers when those central only breakers can pump to as much strength as you want. In fact, these central breakers are pretty efficient at pumping strength, but data sucker is very good because it allows you to finely tweak the amount of strength you need to pump. For example, if you are facing up against a wall of static with a breach, instead of spending 2 credits to increase your breach's strength by 4, which is overkill, you just need to spend 1 data sucker token and save on those 2 credits. Suddenly, data sucker sounds like a very good complement to the central only breakers. It's not just for use with parasites or the Anarch breaker suite. I think this was a very ingenious way that he constructed the deck in terms of breaker suite synergizing with data sucker, and it really punished me for playing big ice and a slow deck. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching and happy net running.